If you enjoy the topics and videos you see here on Power of Thought, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. It would really help to support us. There seems to be no shortage of existential threats in today's world. Climate change, pandemics, war, political divisiveness. But at the heart of all of these problems is one as old as civilization itself: rhetoric. In this video, we will explore the true fight of our time, the challenge that our generation must either rise to defeat or become consumed by. The real battle between right and wrong, of good and evil, is the battle between truth and lie, between being and seeming, between true knowledge and the appearance of knowledge. Going all the way back to one of the most famous times in history, the Athens of Socrates, we see some very eerie parallels to our present time. From the Republic to the Apology, the Platonic dialogues always held one major theme among its secondary ones: the battle between the sophist and the philosopher. The sophists of Athens were men who were skilled at the use of language to convince people of their point. They traveled around giving speeches, debating others, and selling their services to those who wanted this skill. The Athenian sophist can be compared to a few individuals today, but perhaps the most common and widespread would be the political social media influencer, sometimes referred to as a grifter or even an egoist. These sophists became so influential in not only the politics, but the everyday society of Athens, and Plato made it a mission of his to show, through the means of his dialogues, that true knowledge must prevail. The difficulty of such a task is nothing short of monumental, as most people think with their emotions, responding to perceived threats and enemies instead of having patience with their thoughts. The sophists, today's political influencers, know this all too well. It is the key strategy to gaining power. Niccolò Machiavelli details this in his famous work, The Prince, talking about how the greatest position to be in if one wants to have ultimate political power is to have the appearance of what the people want, but to keep one's own interests at play. That way, the people do your will, not the other way around. You see, the problem with taking people's word on what they say their intentions are is that anyone can pretend. Any person can emulate the symbols you want to see. This is how political entities strategize. They gain the appearance of what a voter base is looking for, but keep their own motivations in mind. Think of the political left in the United States waving the banner of progress, but failing to execute when they hold a majority. And the political right saying that they're protecting some values from some big threat, but the threat is nowhere to be found. Both are pretenders. And that doesn't mean all politicians are bad and that the political process isn't worth your time. Just the opposite. It means that good people in politics need your help. And you can help them by being patient and thoughtful about your voting decisions. But more dangerous than rhetoric in politics is it bleeding into our everyday society. When we lose touch with truth and reason, we fall into a floating space with no ground beneath our feet. We become desperate for someone to grab onto, and this makes us extra vulnerable to these egoistic influencers. So how do we spot this rhetoric? And is rhetoric always bad? In the Art of Rhetoric, Aristotle sought to differentiate the uses of rhetoric, hoping to salvage the art of public debate and conversation from the perversions of the sophists. He identified three main categories used in rhetoric: ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is perhaps the most familiar to us, as this is when the person speaking puts most of their effort into their appearance, both physical and verbal, the appearance of someone authoritative, a leader who knows how to get the job done. The idea here is that if we think someone knows better than we do, we stop thinking for ourselves. If they convince us they are smarter or have access to some truth that we do not, we give up thinking for ourselves and hold out our hands for the answers. So when someone seems to exude this type of unquestionable authority, try to examine further. Pathos is potentially the most damaging here, as this is the type of persuasion tactic that is meant to arouse emotion. A speaker will use pathos in a way that makes you feel like the position of their opponent has done or plans to do something bad to you. This could be anything from coming after your values to getting rid of your job, but the end goal is the same: disarm you of your capacity to think clearly by getting you all riled up. The third, logos, is presented by Aristotle as the true form of argument. Logos is something like the Socratic method or even the scientific method, an argument bound by rigorous and tested logical connections. This method is tedious, time-consuming, and often less exciting, but it is the only one that can get us somewhere that isn't damaging, divisive, and serving to benefit only the one seeking to convince us. As you go about your day-to-day life, particularly your consumption of social media, you will find pathos and ethos being used in wide abundance. And this is because they are quick and effective. But keep in mind that by their very nature, they are not meant to help you. And if you pay attention for long enough, you will start to see a pattern. One common use of rhetoric is the anecdote. Someone will tell you a small story or a bit of info, and it will follow it up with some kind of question like, "So what does this mean?" This sets your mind up by making it suddenly look for an answer. And this is intentional, as they immediately follow it up with an answer of their own. And the sheer speed and nature of this moment makes us instantly take that answer and believe them. And that's why they use it. So next time, try to shut it off right before they give you the answer. Think of the anecdote for a couple days, do some additional digging, and then come back and hit play. See if you agree with their assessment or if it seems off to you. The big message here is that life is full of nuance. People want simple but exciting and divisive answers to things, but the truth is that there is so much nuance and context to every topic that answers take a lot of time and effort and are often quite boring. But if you learn to take this time to be patient and arm yourself against the bad uses of rhetoric, you may be surprised how powerful and independent you become. Be sure to tune in for our other videos in this series on critical thinking.